Otis,
And this is Mick, the Doctor of Digital.
and welcome to Love Letters. Love Letters are is created for our love stories of people get lost, get crazy, and disoriented in the name of love. Another week, another great episode. Love Island's Mirage, what reality TV gets wrong about love, and what's Christian tradition gets right.
This is why real love isn't ready for prime time. We're drowning in options but starving for connection. Reality TV promises to teach us about love, but what if it's teaching us to avoid it? Today, we're diving deep into why Love Island, despite its glossy appeal, might be the worst dating education we could ask for, and why ancient wisdom about love still holds the keys to what we're searching for.
Definitely. You've read Sasha Seinfeld's essay about Love Island. She says it's pristine sandbox for dating in your 20s, a safe space for young people to practice relationships without real world consequences. Do you agree with that, Mr. Mank?
Not even a little bit. And I say that as someone who understands the appeal of her argument. Look, I know why Sasha's perspective sounds almost liberating. She's essentially saying here's a controlled environment where young people can flirt, fail, and try again without the messiness of real world dating. She calls it intimacy education for a generation that grew up swiping on apps instead of having actual conversations. On the surface, that sounds reasonable, even compassionate. But the more I've thought about it and the more I've watched how this show affects people, the more I see it as a mirage. Love Island isn't a sandbox where you can safely build castles and knock them down. It's a carnival ride, all flashy lights, loud music, people screaming with adrenaline. And when it stops, you're exactly where you started, just a little bit more dizzy and disoriented. Here's the fundamental problem: relationships aren't games, they're not practice runs. When you treat intimate human connection like an experiment you can restart at will, you end up training your heart to pull away the moment things get difficult. You develop emotional muscle memory for exit strategies rather than staying power. Think about what happens on Love Island. People form intense connections over days or weeks, share vulnerable moments, make promises, and then watch these same people couple up with someone else at the next recoupling ceremony. The show rewards emotional agility over emotional depth. It celebrates the ability to pivot, to move on, to keep your options open. Well, that's not how love works in the real world. Real love, the kind that sustains us through life's inevitable challenges, requires the opposite skill set. It demands the ability to stay, to work through conflict, to choose someone again and again, even when the initial spark dims or when someone more attractive walks into the room. Christian tradition has understood this for centuries. The early church fathers talked about love as a school for the soul, not a playground for experimentation. Tertullian, writing in the second century, called marriage a sacrament of God's creation. He didn't mean it was easy or that it came naturally. He meant it was holy, a place where we grow in selflessness, fidelity, and courage through the daily choice to love another person. But Love Island's sandbox teaches the exact opposite virtues. It rewards shallow attraction and quick exits. It normalizes disposable relationships. That's not education, that's conditioning us for heartbreak. We're living in a culture that's starving for intimacy, but we keep serving up fast food, something salty, sweet, and addictive in the moment, but never actually satisfying. We wonder why so many people in their 20s and 30s, or even older, feel emotionally exhausted by dating. But then we celebrate shows that treat human hearts like video game characters with multiple lives. The tragedy is that people are watching Love Island and thinking, this is how relationships work now. They're learning to expect instability, to open their hearts just briefly, even in moments of connection, but to always be scanning for better options. In conclusion, that's not preparation for love, that's preparation for loneliness.
Hmm. Mr. Meg Sasha also praises the show for modeling honest confrontation in relationships. She argues that watching couples have a difficult conversations teaches viewers how to communicate better. Is it not the valuable even if the setting is artificial?
Well, it sounds good on paper until you examine what's happening in those conversations. Yes, the show features couples sitting down for emotional heart to hearts, but are they really honest or are they performative, filmed from six different angles and edited for maximum dramatic impact? True honesty requires that things that Love Island can't provide: trust, privacy, and safety. Augustine, writing in the 4th century, described marriage as a private school of virtue. He believed love was forged in quiet perseverance, not public spectacle. In his view, the most important conversations between lovers happens in whispered moments, away from the eyes of others, when vulnerability is a gift given freely rather than a performance demanded by circumstance. But on Love Island, every confrontation is staged. Contestants know they're being watched by millions. Their tears become content. Their apologies become ratings. When you ever made your best, most vulnerable confession under bright lights in front of an audience, knowing your words will be broadcast to the world? There's another deeper issue here. The show's constant coupling and recoupling create habits of emotional instability. Real love grows in the soil of commitment when you choose to stay, to forgive, to work through difficult seasons without the option of swapping partners at the next ceremony. I've noticed something in my own life and in the lives of friends. The conversations that change us, that build intimacy, rarely happen during scheduled relationship talks. They happen at 2 a.m. when someone can't sleep. They happen during long car rides. They happen when you're washing dishes together and someone finally says what they've been thinking for weeks. These moments can't be produced or directed. They emerge from the slow accumulation of trust, from the security of knowing that this person isn't going anywhere, but they've committed to figuring this out together. But Love Island participants never have that security. They're always auditioning, always aware that their partner might choose someone else tomorrow. How can you be truly honest when you're fundamentally in competition with everyone around you? The show also teaches a very specific kind of honesty, one that's often brutal, selfish, and designed to justify behavior rather than build connection. I'm just being honest becomes a shield for cruelty. I have to follow my heart becomes code for I want to explore my options. Jeremiah 17:9 states, "The heart is deceitful above all things and desperately wicked. Who can know it?" If we want healthier models for relationship communication, we need something more like what Augustine described: conversations that happen in private, that lead to deeper trust rather than public humiliation, that are motivated by love rather than self protection. The irony is that the most honest thing any Love Island contestants could say would be, I can't be fully honest with you because I'm on a reality show designed to create drama, and I don't know if I'll choose you tomorrow. What if reality broke through the reality show facade? Breaking the fourth wall is a term from theater and storytelling, describing a moment when a character acknowledges the audience, the fictional nature of their world, or the medium itself, thus disrupting the illusion of a self contained narrative. The fourth wall refers to the imaginary barrier between the characters and the audience, like the invisible wall at the front of a stage. What if a participant directly addressed the audience? In conclusion, that would break the fourth wall, wouldn't it?
Mr. Mick, one thing Sasha finds valuable about the show is how it normalizes rejection. She says seeing even conventionally attractive people get dumped helps viewers feel less alone in their dating struggles. Isn't it? There's something comforting about the shared experience.
I understand why people find that comforting, but it's a shallow comfort that ultimately makes the problem worse. This is what the Germans call Schadenfreude. Schadenfreude is a German word that describes the feeling of pleasure or satisfaction one experiences when witnessing another person's misfortune, failure, or suffering. It combines Schaden, harm or damage, with Freude, joy. Yes, the show reminds us that rejection happens to everyone, even people like they've stepped out of central casting. There's a democratizing effect to watching a perfectly sculpted 25-year-old get their heart broken on national television. It whispers, see, it's not just you, even the beautiful people suffer. But what the show doesn't provide, and what we desperately need, is wisdom about how to heal from rejection. how to grow through it, or how to build the kind of relationship where rejection isn't constantly lurking around every corner. Here's where the Christian perspective offers something radically different. Origen, one of the earliest Christian thinkers, warned against treating people as disposable objects of our desire. He said that when we see others as just options to try out, we degrade both them and ourselves. We reduce image bearers of God to accessories in our personal happiness project. That's exactly what happens on Love Island. Contestants are constantly evaluating who's hotter, who's more fun, who's less likely to dump me next week. The endless stream of new arrivals keeps them restless and unsatisfied. They're always wondering if someone better might walk through the doors tomorrow. This is our friends with benefits options that is so common today. We see the same pattern in app culture today: swipe fatigue, ghosting, people treating each other like consumable products instead of complex human beings with stories, dreams, and wounds. The proliferation of options doesn't make us happier, it makes us perpetually dissatisfied. But here's what's even more troubling: Love Island doesn't just normalize rejection, it gamifies it. The show creates artificial scarcity through elimination ceremonies, forcing people to rank their connections and discard others. It turns the natural pain of romantic disappointment into entertainment. Contrast that with the Christian understanding of love, which is built on the revolutionary idea that every person is unrepeatable, irreplaceable. To truly love someone is to say, I choose you, not because you're the best option available, but because you're you, not because you're perfect, but because I see something in you worth committing to. That's just not comforting, it's transformational. It changes how you see yourself and how you see others. Instead of constantly wondering if you measure up, if you can rest in being chosen, instead of always keeping one foot on the door, you can invest fully in building something beautiful together. The comfort of shared rejection is like being in a support group for people who keep touching hot stoves. Yes, it's nice to know you're not alone in your burns, but as in the situation when you learned as a child, wouldn't it be better to learn not to touch the stove in the first place? Real comfort comes from understanding that you don't have to live in constant fear of being discarded. In conclusion, there's a different way to do relationships, one built on covenant rather than competition, on commitment rather than convenience.
But Mr. Mick, Sasha argues that trial and error are essential to learning about love. She says romantic trial and error as a play, not pathology, is healthy for young people. After all, isn't not dating supposed to be messy?
Yes, dating can be messy, but there's a crucial difference between messiness and recklessness, between learning from experience and treating human hearts like disposable training wheels. Sasha frames trial and error as innocent play, but if you repeat any behavior often enough, it becomes a pattern. And patterns shape us. They shape us what we expect from others and what we expect from ourselves. Gregory of Nyssa, a 4th century bishop, talked about love as a journey of purification. For him, love wasn't just a series of failed experiments, it was a process of becoming more steadfast, more selfless, more like Christ. Each relationship wasn't a rough draft you eventually throw away, it was part of your formation as a human being. Here's the hard truth that our culture doesn't want to acknowledge: every relationship leaves a mark. Every time we bond deeply with someone, break apart, and move on, we carry those pieces with us. We weren't designed for an endless series of beginnings and endings. I've watched friends go through what they call their dating phase: years of short term relationships, casual connections, and emotional whiplash. They think they're learning about love, but what they're learning is how to protect themselves from it. They develop sophisticated defense mechanisms, ways of saying surface level, even in moments of intimacy. By the time they're ready to settle down, they've trained themselves to expect disappointment, to hedge their bets, to always keep exit strategies handy. They've confused cynicism with wisdom, emotional numbing with maturity. That's why the Christian vision of courtship emphasizes discernment over experimentation. You take time to ask the hard questions. Is this someone I can run through life with? Do we share the same values, the same vision for what love should look like? And you ask these questions in the community with friends, mentors, event family members helping you see clearly. The process is still messy, still involves uncertainty and risk, but it's oriented toward commitment from the beginning. You're not just trying people on for size, you're looking for someone to build a life with. There's also a deeper issue here about what we mean by learning about love. Love Island teaches that love is fundamentally about chemistry, attraction, and compatibility. But what if love is actually about something else entirely? What if love is about learning to die to yourself for another person? What if it's about becoming the kind of person who can make deep promises and keep them? What if it's about discovering that true freedom comes not from endless options, but from choosing to bind yourself to another person's flourishing? These are lessons you can't learn through trial and error because they require the stability of commitment to develop. You can't learn faithfulness by practicing infidelity. You can't learn sacrifice by always choosing what's easiest. You can't learn covenant love by treating relationships like lease agreements. The messiness of dating should be the messiness of two people slowly learning to trust each other, to share their lives, to navigate conflict and disappointment together. In conclusion, it shouldn't be the messiness of constantly starting over, of treating every new person as a potential replacement for the last one.
Mr. Mick Sasha also praises that shows artificial constraints like the recoupling ceremonies and elimination rounds because they are force people to make decisions instead of letting relationships drift indefinitely. Could not that kind of pressure be healthy for clarifying feelings?
It might seem healthy on the surface, but healthy decisions don't emerge from external pressures. They come from internal freedom and mature reflection. Thomas Aquinas, building on centuries of Christian thought about marriage, said that true marital commitment requires what he called consensus, a free, deliberate, and enduring choice made without coercion. You can't engineer authentic commitment with time limits, elimination rounds, or the threat of being sent home. On Love Island, choices are fundamentally transactional. Stay with your current partner or risk being dumped and losing your chance at the prize money. That's not love, that's a survival strategy. It's game theory dressed up as romance. Think about what happens during those recoupling ceremonies. People stand up and deliver rehearsed speeches about their feelings, but everyone knows the real calculation happening behind the scenes. Who's most likely to keep me safe? Who gives me the best chance of making it to the final? The result? Almost none of the show's couples stay together after filming ends because real commitment isn't forged under artificial constraints. It grows slowly, organically, out of shared trust and sacrifice over time. There's something profoundly backwards about the idea that we need external pressure to make relationship decisions. It's healthy relationships, the desire to commit should emerge from within, from the gradual recognition that this person is worth binding your life to, so that what you're building together is more valuable than what you might find elsewhere. But our culture has become so uncomfortable with commitment that we've forgotten what it is. We think of it as a limitation, as giving up freedom, as settling for less than we deserve. But what if commitment is actually what makes freedom possible? What if commitment is the freedom to love without fear of abandonment? The freedom to be fully known without the risk of being discarded? The freedom to build something beautiful together without constantly looking over your shoulder for better options? This is what Christian marriage offers, not coercion, but covenant, not pressure, but a promise. The decision to commit isn't made under duress, but in the quiet confidence that this person is worth the risk, that love is worth the investment. I've noticed that couples that I know have the strongest marriages didn't need artificial deadlines to figure out their feelings. They needed time, space, and the security of knowing they weren't competing with others for their partner's attention. They needed the freedom to be uncertain, to work through doubts, to let their relationship deepen naturally. The pressure cooker environment of Love Island creates the illusion of intimacy, people sharing vulnerable moments, making grand declarations, crying together, but it's intimacy without foundation, passion without the slow work of actually knowing someone. In conclusion, real relationship decisions require what the show can't provide: the mundane dailiness of life together, the unglamorous work of navigating ordinary conflicts, the slow accumulation of trust that comes from seeing someone choose you again and again when no cameras are rolling.
Mr. Mick, such a final argument is that modern dating is a fundamentally intolerable, filled with apps, uncertainty, and heartbreak. But the Love Island teaches us to accept and even embrace this reality. She seems to be saying we should stop expecting dating to be different and just learn to surf the chaos. Is there wisdom in that kind of acceptance?
No, that's not wisdom, that's resignation. And there's a crucial difference between the two. I understand why Sasha reaches this conclusion. Modern dating can feel exhausting. The endless swiping, the ghosting, the situationships that go nowhere, the constant uncertainty about where you stand with someone. It's tempting to throw up your hands and say, this is just how it is now. We might as well embrace the chaos. But that's like saying, well, junk food is everywhere and healthy eating is hard. So let's just accept that we're all going to be malnourished. It's a false choice between naive optimism and cynical acceptance. Christian tradition offers a third way. It says that love isn't chaos and it's not a game. Love is a covenant. It's the deliberate choice to bind your life to another person's flourishing, to say yes to them, not just once, but every day through seasons of joy and difficulty alike. 2,000 years ago, the Apostle Paul described marriage as a picture of Christ's love for the church: sacrificial, steadfast, and redemptive. That wasn't just pretty poetry, it was a revolutionary vision that has sustained couples through centuries of cultural change. It suggests that human love, at its best, reflects something divine, something that transcends the mess and confusion of our fallen world. This vision says that love isn't intolerable, it's holy. It's meant to refine us, to call us out of our natural selfishness and into deeper communion with another person and with God. It's hard, yes, but it's not the kind of hardship that breaks us. It's the kind that makes us more fully human. The difference between chaos and covenant isn't that covenant is easier, it's that covenant that gives difficulty meaning. When your marriage goes through a rough patch, you don't think, well, I guess this is intolerable and I should find someone else. You think, this is where we grow. This is where we learn what love means. But accepting intolerable dating as the new normal does something devastating to our souls. It trains us to expect disappointment, to build walls around our hearts, to treat other people as sources of temporary entertainment rather than potential partners for life. I've watched this happen to entire generations of young people. They start dating with hope and vulnerability, but after years of being ghosted, breadcrumbed, and treated casually, they develop what they call realistic expectations. They learn to guard their hearts, to play it cool, to never invest too deeply, too quickly. By the time they're ready for something serious, they've forgotten how to be serious. They've spent so long protecting themselves from heartbreak that they've also protected themselves from the kind of deep connection that makes heartbreak possible in the first place. That's why Love Island is so insidious. It doesn't just reflect our broken dating culture, it celebrates it. It says, look how fun chaos can be. Look how exciting it is to never know where you stand. It reframes dysfunction as entertainment and emotional instability as authenticity. But we don't have to accept this. We can choose covenant over chaos, depth over drama, commitment over convenience. We can say, I refuse to treat love like a game, and I refuse to let others treat me like a player piece. That's not just naive romanticism, it's a radical act of hope. In conclusion, it's saying that despite all the evidence to the contrary, despite all the ways our culture has cheapened and commodified love, we still believe in the possibility of something real, something lasting, something worth the risk.
Can we wrap up with a closing reflection, Mr. Mink? Why do we need a better love story?
Reality TV like Love Island gives us love stories that are bright, dramatic, and fleeting. But deep down, we're craving something more substantial, something that we can sustain us through the long journey of building a life with another person. The Christian tradition, from an ancient countercultural origin, is future focused and surprisingly relevant and offers exactly the needed prescription. It tells us that love isn't about winning, performing, or hedging our bets. It's about the daily choice to give ourselves fully and faithfully to another person, to say yes to them, not just in moments of passion, but in the quiet, unglamorous work of building a shared life. Maybe the most radical thing we can do in this age of endless options is to choose limitation, to say to one person, I choose you, only you, forever, to build something deep rather than something disposable, something covenantal rather than something convenient. That's not romantic idealism. It's a revolutionary act of hope in a culture that has forgotten what love is actually for. It's saying that despite all the noise, despite all the apps and shows and experts telling us that love is chaos, we still believe in the possibility of something real. We still believe that two people can choose each other day after day, year after year, and then that choosing discovers something beautiful and lasting and true. We still believe that love is not a game to be won or a problem to be solved, but a gift to be received and protected and nurtured into something that can sustain us through all the seasons of life. In a world that treats hearts like disposable commodities, choosing covenant love is the most countercultural thing we can do. It's saying that we refuse to accept chaos as normal, that we refuse to let our culture's brokenness define our expectations, that we're willing to risk everything for the possibility of something real. That's just not good for us. It's good for the world because when people see genuine covenant love in action, when they witness two people choosing each other faithfully over time, it reminds them that another way is possible. It becomes a light in the darkness, a sign of hope in a culture that has forgotten what hope looks like. So let's stop settling for the mirage of reality TV love. Let's stop accepting chaos as inevitable. Let's choose covenant, choose depth, choose the hard and beautiful work of building something that can last. In conclusion, that's not only what our hearts are craving, it's what our world desperately needs to see.
Very well said, Mr. Mig. Very well said. Yes, people love islands, mirage. What reality TV gets wrong about love is something about romance or instant attraction, dramatic gestures, and passion without commitment, but often leave viewers with a shallow, transactional view of love. So, Mr. Mick, would you like to plug in something?
Thanks for the opportunity. Create a valued book in 90 days. Connect with me on LinkedIn, GMick, the Doctor of Digital Smith. Listen to the podcast, The Doctor of Digital. Pick up a couple volumes of mine, Burning America and On Track, Ian Hunter. The idea to author coach, create a valued book in 90 days.
Yes, people, let's support Mr. Mick, the Doctor Digital, because if you support him for sure, more and more empowering authors to come. And please do listen to our baby podcast, Mental Health 101. Mental Health 101 is created for empowering our mental health awareness. So, Mr. Mick, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, my friend, Mr. Daniel. Until next time, the day is full.
More to come, people. See you soon.